Bolivia has a navy, thousands of sailors, a fleet of vessels, a full chain of command. No ocean. To understand why, you have to start at the geography Bolivia used to have. Bolivia sits in the center of South America, surrounded on every side by land. Brazil to the north, Paraguay and Argentina to the east and south, Chile and Peru to the west. No coast on any border. But the map looked different in 1878. Bolivia once owned a strip of the Pacific coast, about 250 miles of it. That stretch ran through what is now the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. The land looked barren, but underneath it was something worth fighting over. Nitrates. In the 1870s, nitrate was the fertilizer that fed the world. Chile needed it. Bolivia had it, and the border between them ran directly through the deposits. In 1879, Chile crossed that border. The War of the Pacific began. Bolivia fought alongside Peru. By 1880, Chilean forces controlled the Bolivian coastline. Bolivia signed a truce in 1884. A formal peace treaty followed in 1904. The territory was gone. Bolivia did not just lose a geographic strip. It lost the port of Antofagasta, its gateway to global trade. It lost access to shipping lanes. It lost the ability to move goods to the world without crossing a neighbor first. The country was cut from the coast, and the coast did not grow back. Bolivia refused to let the geography become final. They kept their navy. Today, the Bolivian naval force has approximately 5,000 personnel. They do not train on an ocean. They train on Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca sits at 3,812 meters above sea level, the highest navigable lake on Earth. The lake sits on the border between Bolivia and Peru. Its deepest point is 281 meters. It holds nearly 900 cubic kilometers of water. The Inca believed it was the birthplace of the sun. Floating reed islands have been inhabited for centuries. Every year on March 23rd, Bolivia holds its Dia del March, the Day of the Sea. The Navy parades. Officials give speeches. The country remembers a coastline it has not seen in over a century. What Bolivia kept after the war is harder to explain on a single map. The country spans 6 ecological zones. To understand the scale of that, you have to go to La Paz. La Paz is Bolivia's seat of government. It sits at 3,640 meters above sea level. The airport that serves it, El Alto, sits 400 meters higher than the city below. Planes land and passengers step out into air that is thin enough to make a healthy person stop mid-sentence. Visitors spend the first day adjusting to the oxygen, and in 2007, FIFA temporarily banned international soccer matches above 2,500 meters. Bolivia's home stadiums sit well above that line. Bolivia was furious. The ban was reversed under pressure 2 years later. But the altitude did not move. The Navy trains at 3,812 meters. The government meets at 3,640 meters. And to the southwest, the landscape changes again. The Salar de Uyuni stretches across 10,582 square kilometers. It is the largest salt flat on Earth. The terrain is so flat that when rain falls it spreads in a layer millimeters thin and turns the surface into a mirror. From above, the reflection is perfect enough that NASA uses the salar to calibrate the altimeters on orbiting satellites. No other surface on Earth is flat enough and large enough to serve that purpose. Below the salt is something else entirely. Bolivia sits on some of the largest lithium deposits on the planet. Lithium is the essential ingredient in the batteries that power electric vehicles. The country that lost its coast in a war over nitrates now sits above a resource that may define the next century of global transportation. If this kind of map story makes geography finally make sense, subscribe before the next border gets redrawn. To the east, the geography inverts. The altitude drops. By the time you reach the lowlands near the Brazilian border, you are under 200 meters above sea level. The air is thick. The heat is heavy. The vegetation becomes tropical rainforest. Bolivia shares part of the Amazon basin. A person can leave La Paz in the morning and arrive in the lowland jungle by afternoon, having passed through 3 climate zones on the way down. 6 ecological zones. 1 landlocked country. For decades, Bolivia worked to undo the geography of 1879 through diplomacy. In 2013, it took Chile to the International Court of Justice. The claim was not a demand for territory. It was a demand for the right to negotiate. Bolivia argued that Chile had made prior commitments to discuss granting Bolivia sovereign access to the sea. The court accepted the case. 5 years of proceedings followed. In 2018, the court ruled Chile was not obligated to negotiate. Bolivia had no legal claim to force the conversation. Bolivia's president called it a failure of international law. Bolivia's position did not change. Bolivia today is a country with 6 ecological zones, the highest navigable lake on Earth, the largest salt flat on Earth, and a navy that has not seen an ocean in 145 years. It contains lithium deposits that the world increasingly wants and terrain that makes them difficult to reach. It has a March holiday to mourn a coastline. It has sailors who train at altitude on a freshwater lake at the border with Peru. It has a capital city where newcomers get altitude sickness climbing stairs. And it has a map that shows a country surrounded on every side. Not because Bolivia is small. Because of one war, one treaty, and one coast that did not grow back.